introibo ad altare Dei.
Welcome to Catholic Conversations. This is your host, Adrian Fonseca, and I'm here today with my two friends, Rodrigo and Jairo, two people that went with me to on a trip to Poland with the University of St. Thomas. We all went to Poland for a few weeks, a little over 2 weeks, to study the thought of John Paul II, to walk in his footsteps, and to kind of see what it was like in Poland then, what it was like now. We kind of walked through the history of Poland, and we learned a lot about JP2, his life, his philosophy, his theology. And then at the end of the trip, we all got back together, and we were assigned a topic to write about. And so today we're going to go over the different topics about surrounding Poland and JP2, also about just our experience in Poland, how it compares and contrasts. What are the good things? What are the bad things? And should you go visit Poland? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes. It was a great trip. And so I would highly recommend anybody go. But Rodrigo, Jairo, hello.
Hello, Adrian.
Yeah. So Jairo, who are you? Where are you from? What school do you go to? What's your major? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Jairo Guerrero. I am originally from Mexico, from Guanajuato in Mexico. I moved here to the U.S. about 4 years ago to start my education, my higher education in college. My majors actually, it's philosophy and communications. I'm doing double major. And also a minor in Spanish, since I already speak Spanish. So why not? Why not do it? Why not to get credit for it?
And what do you want to do with that?
Well, I would like to work in the media, especially because you know that if you're working in the media, you have to have like a really good background, intellectually speaking, in order to provide critics and answers to the current issues that are right now in the world. So, and also, well, I'm doing my majors in University of St. Thomas, which is great.
And you currently you work at a radio station, correct?
That's correct. Exactly. I work in Radio Maria, which is the worldwide radio station that broadcasts in many languages around the world. Here in the U.S., we have it in 3 languages, Spanish, English, and Italian. And concretely here in Houston, we have it in Spanish and English.
Yeah,
and so I work for the Spanish.
It works perfectly. So you have your Spanish minor. You're working at a Spanish radio station. Yeah. You are doing your communications because it's doing radio, and you're using your philosophy because it's all about theology and philosophy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So perfect.
Yeah.
And Rodrigo, what about you? Tell me a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Rodrigo Vega, and I was born in Mexico. I came to the U.S., Austin, Texas, when I was 1 year old. I grew up in Austin for 17 years until I moved to Houston 7 years ago. And currently I'm attending University of St. Thomas to pursue a major in international studies with a specialization in diplomacy.
Interesting. And so what do you want to do with your international studies degree?
Well, I want to probably work in the private sector or public sector and or see NGOs and explore the opportunities, whatever comes out of that,
Awesome.
So,
yeah.
Diplomacy.
And then, so now let's move into, so now we know who you are, a little bit about y'all. Let's talk about Poland, our trip to Poland. So let's back up though. What did we have to do before we got to Poland? What was the prep work that we had to do before that?
Well, before we went to Poland, we actually had to have read some books on the topic of JP2. And also on Polish culture, Polish history, just to be familiar with it.
And we also learned a little bit of the Polish languge, though I did really bad. But both Jairo and Rodrigo both did much better than I did. And Rodrigo, are you taking Polish this semester?
Yes, I am in fact taking Polish this semester.
So how's that going?
It's actually really good. I'm the only student.
Really?
But I mean, Dr. Adrian is attending the classes as well, so technically it's 2 students.
Wow. But, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm having a lot of fun and I'm learning a lot.
And so the I guess one-on-one is very good for learning.
For learning,
yeah. Yes, definitely. It's and also Professor Ursula. She's very very patient, very kind. She's very dedicated to her class. She likes to add into the mix a lot of games, so it makes learning a lot easier and fun.
That's awesome.
Are you ready to go back to Poland?
Yes, actually, I was told by Dr. Hittinger just a few days back that if I could go to Poland with him, he offered me to go back to Poland.
Awesome. Yeah, now we can have a translator.
Yeah, exactly.
We have you and Father Vitor.
Because actually, he was translating for us when we were over there. I mean, by that time we didn't know more Polish, but at least you were the amount of knowledge that you had on that language
far more than everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean I really love languages, and Polish just seemed really interested, and also the fact that not a lot of people are very interested in Polish, or they just don't know a lot about Poland or Polish history and language. So I decided to dig deeper and learn more about it. Because most people actually don't think about it, and if they do, it's like, well, why Poland? Why are you learning Polish? I've encountered that a lot on campus. Actually, when I've talked to people about Polish language, they're like, why are you learning Polish? That's so random. You went to Poland, then you came back,
and now you're learning Polish.
But I was like, well, actually, Poland is geopolitically, it's actually really important. It's an important ally to the United States. There was actually I think it was a couple months ago or weeks where Donald Trump visited Poland. They were working on some agreement to have military bases there because Poland is a part of NATO, and Poland wants to keep the U.S. as an ally, wants to be a part of NATO to basically keep Russia off their political sphere.
Makes sense.
Like stay off our property.
Exactly, because they've had some history with Russia. So
a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
So, and that's why, I want to also, use my major in Polish and see, if there's any opportunity to work in Poland to, get involved with, Poland, maybe on a political level or even on a cultural level, work on strengthening the ties with the U.S. and Poland. And, I've had some interesting experiences with my Polish teacher because not only, she's been living here in the U.S. for some time, but she's had the opportunity to learn some Spanish and about Mexican culture. So not only, am I trading, I guess, American culture with a Polish person, but also the Mexican culture as well.
Your heritage.
Yeah, very interesting.
Especially because in Poland, Mexico, most people don't know a lot about Mexico.
Yeah.
And I think we tried the Mexican soup. I don't know if y'all did.
Poland, yeah.
It was an interesting experience.
Yeah, while we were in Poland, we went to pretty much the only Mexican restaurant in all of Poland. And we went and as great as Poland is, they do not do Mexican food well, as you might expect.
Yeah, of course.
So there's an opportunity there to not only exchange culture with Poland, Mexican culture, maybe teach them more about Mexico, So yeah, I definitely I recommend it. It's there's not a lot of people actually interested in studying Poland and Eastern Europe, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why this trip in particular with us was so much enlightening. So we learned so much because so many of the people on the trip really wanted to learn. Like we weren't there just to party or things like that to have fun. Yeah. We were there to have fun, and we did have fun.
We did have fun.
But I was very interested in theology and philosophy of JP2, and both of y'all were as well. And a lot of people on the trip, we all had interest in actually learning something. Yeah. And so we really did get a lot of chances to and dive into some things that might seem boring to some people.
Yeah, and with the help of Father Beetle, I mean, he was just great. I mean, I think we could actually learn about Poland. We could actually see Poland through him.
Yeah,
I mean, he was like the door or the window.
He gave us a good introduction to Poland. Yeah, I think we're very lucky. Because unlike other tourists that just go there,
right,
and they just visit, I mean, they have a book or a map.
Well, I was watching videos of people going to Poland on YouTube before going, and people are just like, "Oh yeah, you got to try the beer." It's like you got to look at the nature. And I mean, all that is. I mean, it's all good things.
Poland itself,
right? Yeah, like that's not Poland. Like you have to go and see the religious aspect of it because the religious aspect of Poland is integral to the actual nation of Poland itself. And
it's enculturated.
Exactly. It's enculturated. The gospel is enculturated into the culture. So literally the word enculturated.
Exactly.
Like, it's amazing.
That's why we love it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, did y'all know that the king and queen of Poland is Our Lady and our Lord? Like, that's crazy. Like, how awesome is that?
I know, that was for me when I learned about that. I was like, this is incredible. I mean, you don't see that in any other place.
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Imagine.
Except somewhere else, which is Mexico. And that's why I wrote the paper about that.
Wait, Jesus was crowned king
Well,
of Mexico?
not Jesus, but Our Lady.
Okay.
Our Lady of
Really?
Guadalupe.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I wrote about the relationship that there exists between Mexico and Poland, and why did JP2 love Mexico so much? Because he went 5 times. He went to Poland during his pontificate 9 times, I think, and 5 times to Mexico. And actually, his first trip as pontiff was to Mexico. And whenever he went there, he said this Polish phrase, but he kind of applied it to Mexico, which is Polonia semper fidelis. He applied it to Mexico, Mexico semper fidelis, which is, well, he said Mexico siempre fiel. Mexico always loyal to our Lord, loyal to Mexican principles. And that was kind of the idea that I had in mind whenever I was writing the paper.
Wow, that's amazing. So in that aspect, so Mexico had declared Mary as Queen of Mexico? Like,
not from the government, which that happened in Poland. Yeah, because not in Mexico, because in Mexico they have a secular government, and basically church and state is separate in Mexico. So they didn't do that officially, but it's kind of different the way that she's a queen, because she appeared there. Mm-hmm. Which is something that she didn't do in Poland,
right?
And it's like kind of different, the essence of how she's queen of the 2 countries,
right? Which is interesting you mentioned that, because I know it's a big misconception that people think that Our Lady of Czestochowa is actually an apparition in Poland, but she's not. It's a recreation of the image thought to have been painted by Saint Luke, the evangelist of Our Lady.
It's so ancient.
Yeah, so it's a very ancient image, and so it's not an apparition, yet there's so many miracles associated with it, with the image, and so it's absolutely amazing to see the history of just that one image. Like, ignore everything else about Poland. You could spend like a lifetime just studying that image in its historical context, the miracles associated with it. It's absurd to see how many things went wrong with it. Like, do you all know the story of the robbers who tried to break in and tried to steal Our Lady?
I think I heard something about that. They scratched Our Lady's face,
so they tried to steal Our Lady from Jasnogora, and they went in, and whenever they couldn't take it, they slashed her in the face. And so when they were fixing the image, they left the scars there on purpose to remind them of what happened. And so if you see a lot of the images of Our Lady of Czestochowa will have those marks on the face. Not all of them. Some people will take them off, but a lot of them will have the 3 marks on the face to remind them of that, like, sacrilege of that.
That's happened. Interesting, because I didn't write that in the paper, but that's something that it's also similar to Mexico. There's a story actually that somebody wanted to explode the basilic.
That's right.
And they put a bomb on the image, under the image, in some flowers there. And the bomb didn't explode.
No, it did explode. Yeah,
but it didn't do anything to the image.
So I remember you can actually go. I encourage you to look this up on Google Images. You can see where the explosion happened.
Yeah.
There's a cross that was nearby, and it's completely bent over and melted.
Yeah.
The heat of it blew started melting all the metal things around it. All the windows in the church were blown out. Yet the image of Our Lady was perfectly intact. But the bomb was right underneath Our Lady. And so it should have been completely destroyed.
But the Mexican people say that our Lord, he protected Our Lady. He protected his mother, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that was during the government of Calles, I believe. When,
probably. During the Mexican persecution, the Cristero War.
Oppose,
Probably. I don't know.
during the Cristero. I think in the 20s or 30s, I believe.
Yeah.
We have to do more research. But no, yeah, there's also more scientific research done on Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if your listeners know about the fact that they found San Juan Diego actually
In her
kneeled
eyes.
in her,
Yeah.
her
With the
pupil,
bishop,
her eye.
Yeah. That's crazy. And you can see like on her tilma, she's wearing the stars. And if you actually put the stars up in the sky, it actually makes a constellation of the stars that would have been present on the night that it happened.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
And there's just like a million different things. Like, oh my gosh, Our Lady of Guadalupe. There's just it's so much. There's so much. It's ridiculous.
And it's something that I wrote in the paper that in Poland, Our Lady of Częstochowa, she's like the queen, the mother, but also the identity of the people. And the same thing happens in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually find people in Mexico that they are atheist people, but they are Guadalupans people that they love. They proclaim themselves, I am a ateo guadalupano. Which is that they are atheists, but they are Guadalupans. They believe in
That's
the
crazy.
Virgin. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I mean, how can that happen?
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, I haven't met one of them like that, but I've met like people like say like, oh, I don't believe in the Bible. There's just a bunch of stories, or kind of atheists. But then they'll send messages like on WhatsApp, like, may God bless you.
Or they have the
God
tattoo of the
protect-
Virgin
like,
of the
you
Mary.
just-
Like it's so common to see like people who are like gangsters or things like that.
Yeah.
Like and it's crazy to think about. It has so many people like that, and they'll have a tattoo of Our Lady on their arm or on their back or somewhere on their body. And it's like do you not see the cognitive dissonance of having like an image of Our Lady but being like a total like
yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
But it's become part of more of a national identity.
Exactly.
Like in Poland,
Yeah.
And I think it was actually the first flag of Mexico.
Really?
And,
and I wrote that also in the paper. Yeah.
Yeah, when Miguel Hidalgo started the rebellion against the Spaniards.
I did not know that.
Independence War, yeah.
He had like a standard, a Guadalupe standard.
Wow. Huh.
And the same thing in Poland, right? In Poland, they had their first national anthem. Or a anthem was an anthem or a song of Our Lady of, I think it was the Mother of God or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are a lot of connections between the two
very
countries.
interesting.
That's why JP2 love a lot Mexico.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean, he knew his own story, his country's story, but I guess that whenever he visited a lot of the countries that he went to, he would do a research about the historical background of the people and all of that. And I'm thinking, I mean, we don't know, but I'm thinking that he fell in love with Mexico. I mean, we can actually see in his messages and all of that. But I would say that he fell in love with Mexico because he actually proclaimed himself a Mexican Pope.
Really?
Yeah, he said when he went to Mexico. I think it was in his fourth visit. He said, "Now I am a Mexican Pope."
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
And so there's the interesting parallel there as well of like the infiltration of communism in Poland and communism in Mexico. And to see that
That's
parallel.
another point.
Yeah.
Mexico officially has never been communist,
Right,
but there
right,
have
right,
been
right.
measures, that you could consider communist. You know that.
The current president of Mexico he's kind of like a socialist, right?
Yeah, I
With a
believe,
tendency,
yeah.
And so you kind of have that common theme of like pseudo-communist in like within Mexico, but then also you see it in a lot of the liberation theology that they're putting into Mexico, like a lot of the priests and religious people, and this is just South America in general. Sadly enough, where people are infiltrated with this liberation theology that's brought back from the KGB, which is basically like, here's Catholic theology, and let's cover it with communism in order to just like, so you won't see the communism. And then so you get these like crazy ideas like I don't know, like Jesus was a socialist and things like that, which is absolutely absurd to think about. But yeah, so I just think that's a very interesting parallel because and then let's talk about Poland being being conquered by both the communists and then the Nazis. Like, oh my
Socialist
gosh,
and communists.
that was pretty insane. That they at that point, at one point in history, were like completely wiped off the map. And Rodrigo, did you talk about any of that, like the history of the communists and Nazis in Poland?
Well, I spoke about pre-partition Poland, which was before 1795. But I mean, I did some reading on that, and well, basically, World War II is known as for Poland as like the war that Poland lost twice, because yes, they were invaded by the Nazis, and then the Soviets came and they liberated, Poland, but it wasn't really liberation. It was just another dictatorship, another totalitarian government
with another name,
so another system. And so I guess this is what really made the Polish people very strong, very tied to their national identity, was the fact that they've been close to losing their identity, their culture,
their
completely.
Because I'm sorry for interrupting. I remember that Father Vito told us that there was a time in which Poland didn't exist. The only way they kept Poland alive was through their language and their culture that they had in their homes. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. It's very interesting to think about, like everything just completely wiped out, and all you have is what's in your head.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like that's scary to think about. And then so moving on to a more happier note.
Yeah.
Like what's your top 3 favorite things about Poland? And I'll give you a second to think about it. I won't tie you down to it. It's like, if you change your mind later, I won't be like, no, you said it. You said it. Can't change your mind. But think about the top 3 favorite things about Poland. For me personally, I really loved going to go see Our Lady Częstochowa. I really wish I could have spent more time there to see her and spend time with her. And then another thing that I really loved was like the reverence that was there for Our Lady, and for the Mass and for liturgy. There was no use of extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. All the priests just spread out and started distributing communion throughout the church.
Yeah.
And then maybe the third thing, the barbecue we had. There was surprisingly good barbecue in Poland. I was so shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, I did not think for a second I'd find good barbecue in Poland. But yeah, what about
awesome.
y'all?
I loved it. And also something that you said, the priests, they were wearing their cassacks.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Cossacks.
All the priests there are wearing their cassocks, and at the very, very minimum, they're at least wearing their clerics. Yeah. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Like you can just look around, and you're just like, there's a priest over there, there's a priest over there, there's a priest over there. They're just like all over the place.
Yeah, and that's something really good, because that reminds you, the simple fact that they are wearing their cassock, that reminds you of God.
Absolutely.
In a secular world.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Poland has kept their Christian or Catholic identity so alive.
Yeah, did y'all see the whole event with the kid who's 15?
Yeah. I saw it.
Oh my gosh.
Holding the crucifix.
Yes. So there was a huge LGBT rally going on, and and this Polish kid, he was about 15 years old, saw that they had an image of Our Lady of Częstochowa that was they replaced her halo with a rainbow flag, and he was like, oh my gosh, they're desecrating my mother. And so he runs to the nearest Catholic church and asks for a crucifix from the priest there. And the priest actually hesitates, but not because he's scared, but of like standing up, not because he's a coward or he doesn't believe that it's wrong. He actually hesitates because he says, oh, make sure they do not desecrate the crucifix. So he didn't want to give him the crucifix because he was afraid of them desecrating it, because he had such love for our Lord. And so the kid promises to try to protect the crucifix. He gives them the crucifix and he runs out in front of this mob of people coming through, and he stands there and holds out the crucifix wrapped in his rosary as he starts singing the Salve Regina in Latin. And he's sitting there, and the cops have to pick him up physically and carry him because he refuses to move. And so there's this great picture online of him just like being held up by these cops and him holding the cross over them. And it's oh my gosh, it's an amazing image to see such courage from a young man, younger than all of us in the room, and younger than most people. And I don't know if I would have the courage when I was 15, and better yet now.
That's the same question that I asked myself when I saw that picture. When I read the article, I was, Whoa.
Who knows? Well, maybe in Poland, we live here in the U.S. It would be, a different situation if it was in Poland, because I think here in the U.S. you would face more backlash than in Poland.
Yeah. I think if you did that in America, you'd have like people like Antifa, like literally killing you for doing that. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
All over you. Yeah.
I would get it. People got hit with big baseball bats in the head by Antifa and things like that. It's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Luckily, no one has died yet, and I hope no one does. But like, if I went out and did something like that at an LGBT event, held up a crucifix and a rosary, and started praying, I feel like they would kill me. I honestly believe that I would die.
You would be a martyr.
I would be a martyr. And I don't know if I want to be a martyr.
Well, you want to go to heaven. So
this is true.
This way.
This is true.
It hasn't been easier to gain or to achieve heaven, to get to heaven. And that's a phrase that San Jose Sanchez del Rio said, which is also a 15-year-old kid from Mexico, also in the Cristero War.
That's right.
Yeah.
Viva Cristo Rey, Viva la Virgen de Guadalupe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
See, there's a lot of connections.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And so for you specifically, Rodrigo, you did it pre-partition. You're referring to what was the partition of Poland?
Well, the partition is referring to, before the year 1795, and basically was when Poland was split between the great powers in Europe, which was Prussia, Russia, Austria. So Poland ceased to exist basically for a period, I think it was 200 years or 150 years, somewhere with that. And but yeah, my research was more focused before the partition, because there's just so much history in Poland. It's 1,000 years of history. Wow. It's from 966, the year 966, when Poland officially became Catholic, to now.
And so whenever they date the history, like Poland, they say like, well, we took a hiatus for like 200 years and then we came back, or they just like, no, we existed then. We're just like, we're underground.
Exactly.
I guess. So how do they like date that? They say like, how do they declare like we're 900 years old or we're like 700 years old with a gap? I mean, well, the Polish people have existed before, 966, but they were basically Slavic tribes. But, of 966 is important because that's when King Mieszko I was baptized. He accepted Christianity. So many historians will say, well, that's when, Poland, was brought into a church, the Europe, the Western Europe, Western civilization, So that's an important date for Poland. And, since then, Poland basically has been very close to the church. And so the Polish people throughout the history from then to the pre-partition, right before the partition, what was the faith like in Poland regarding like the kings and the queens and everything else in between? What was it like?
Well, I was actually really surprised because unlike other Western European countries like Spain, Italy, the church was actually not in control. Did not control the government itself. There was basically, so you had the nobles, which were called Szlachta, and you had the church, basically the king, and basically the Szlachta wanted to have like freedom. So the church really couldn't impose their will upon the nobles. They were basically the ones who ran the government. The king was just elected really during the period of the Rzeczpospolita. And
so there was democracy.
Yeah, so there really wasn't any inquisition in Poland. There wasn't forced conversions. Actually, Poland before the partition was very pluralistically religious. There was a large community of Jews. You also had Orthodox, Unites, and after World War II, Poland became more homogeneous, actually. But throughout most of its history, it was actually very diverse religiously. And so there was this notion of tolerance. Of course, there was a lot of disagreements. Tolerance, when I mean tolerance, I don't mean like everybody got along, right? But, relatively people, they basically accepted, okay, they're different, they have a different religion, that's it. But that doesn't mean like they would always get along with each other and, come together. There was still,
So
differences.
what was
disagreements.
Poland's relation with like the pagan religions? So they kind of like respected the Judeo-Christian religions, but what about the pagan religions that were prevalent in Poland before it became a Catholic nation?
What was their stance? Well, actually, Poland became pretty Catholic after, during the period there was a lot of after 966, it became really Catholic. The last country to be converted into Catholicism, to accept Catholicism, was Lithuania.
Really?
And that was because the nobles had made an agreement with the Duke of Lithuania. He was looking for an alliance, and they created an alliance with Poland, which was the Rzeczpospolita, and Queen Jadwiga married the Duke of Lithuania.
So who's Queen? How do you say her name?
Queen Jadwiga.
Jadwiga. Who's Queen Jadwiga?
So Jadwiga is
sure she was very important. I remember when we kept seeing her name pop up everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who is she? Why is she so important?
So she's really important in Polish history because she, at a very young age, I think she was like 15, 16, very young age, she actually married the Duke of Lithuania against her own will, because there was actually a marriage that was supposed to take place with the Austrian prince, not with the Duke of Lithuania. And there's accounts that she was actually in love with the Austrian prince, but the nobles had arranged everything so that that marriage would actually be canceled, annulled, and she would marry the Duke of Lithuania. And there's a myth of her actually grabbing an axe and, trying to flee from the castle because she just did not want to marry the Duke of Lithuania. She wanted to marry the Austrian prince. But nevertheless, she married the Duke of Lithuania, and she basically accepted what was coming to her. She took upon herself to maintain her country, to create this alliance between Lithuania and Poland. And because of Jadwiga, Jadwiga married the Duke of Lithuania, but the Duke of Lithuania had to convert to Christianity, to Catholicism. So that was the agreement. They would create an alliance, and he would enter marriage with Jadwiga, but he had to convert to Catholicism.
Wow. So that's how they turned Lithuania Catholic.
Exactly.
And now she's a saint, right?
And now she is a saint.
Wow.
But, there's a lot of reports that she was really generous, very humble. She really cared for her people, and she donated a lot of money to a lot of the churches, institutions, and actually, I think it was she left her money when she died. She left it to for the Academy of Krakow to be built. For
Interesting.
The Academy of Krakow.
Wow.
Yeah. It was called the Academy of Krakow. So now it's the the University of Jagiellonia.
Oh, right, the Jagiellonian University. Yeah, we went there for a moment, and we got to see where they rounded up all the professors during Nazi Germany and carted them all away, where 99% of them were executed.
Yeah.
And is that where JP2 studied?
Yeah, he did his I think his PhD there, and also his primary studies. And we went to the Collegium Maius, which was basically the first institution, or the first building, and it was awesome to be there in a medieval building.
Yeah,
we loved it.
And
so
see
cool.
also the statue of Copernicus.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Copernicus, a son of Poland.
I know. I never knew that.
Yeah,
I was like, I didn't know Copernicus was Polish. I was like, what? There's so
I knew
many
he was
people.
Polish, I just didn't know he went to University of Jagiellonia.
Yeah, the
which
same
is-
place
and I
where
was like, wow,
JP2 and
that's-
so many saints were. St. John Cantius, he taught at the Jagiellonian. And I was like, what? What is this university?
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness.
And it's so famous around the world.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that as I was doing my research, the University of Jagiellonia played a role in pre-partition Poland, mainly because there was a lot of academic scholars who actually condemned the Crusades at the time because they said it was against God's will.
Whoa.
So the Crusades were not really that popular in Poland. Well, mainly because they always had, skirmishes with either the Tartars or the Turks. But also they just didn't like the idea of imposing religion, and they saw it was against God's will. Which reminds me of what we learned when JP, what he said in what was it, Fides et Ratio, that he basically, I think he mentions that faith cannot be imposed.
Well, he said so. In Fides et Ratio, his argument is talking about the relationship between faith and reason, and how the faith of the faith of God, that's in the divine revelation, can never contradict reason, because reason was created by God as faith is created by God, and so they're both can never contradict one another. And so if reason is contradicting faith, there must be something wrong with either your reasoning or there's something wrong with your interpretation of the faith, which is so if you're like a creationist and you believe the earth is 3,000 years old, that contradicts reason. And so there's something wrong with either the science or there's something wrong with the way you're interpreting your faith. Yeah. And so we would say there's something wrong with the way you're interpreting your faith if you think it's 3,000 years old. But but
you couldn't, you had to basically, in order for faith could be passed down through reason, through talking.
Not entirely. Right? He says that just like Thomas Aquinas, that you can get to a certain place with reason, which is what Thomas calls natural theology, where you can come to a knowledge of, you can know that there is a God through reason. You can know a lot of the moral theology through reason. But the divine truths, like the Trinity, that the incarnation of Jesus, the seven sacraments, those things cannot be known by reason alone. It has to be with revealed faith. Yeah. There has to be revealed truth there. And so there is a distinction between the two. There you can't come to faith completely by reason, otherwise there wouldn't be faith.
Yeah, of course, but I mean by blind faith, just to have blind faith and imposing,
right.
That I think it was a person should accept, they should okay, this makes sense, I'll accept faith and everything. I think it was maybe I'm not citing Fides and Ratio. You know more about this than I do, but So Adrian has actually been my mentor in Poland. That's something I should mention.
I don't know about that. I don't know about all that.
He's been very helpful in understanding more about church history and theology, and So thank you, Adrian. Yeah, that's helpful. But but I was really interested in that Paul, it was more about, not actually imposing faith or religion, and that they actually condemned it, which was interesting. I found it
very interesting. Yeah. I don't know if I completely agree with them, but interesting. Definitely interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. The Crusades are an interesting topic that maybe I will do one day. A whole episode on talking about the Crusades, and some of them were good, some of them were bad, and then some were very interesting, like the Children's Crusade, which we can talk about at a later date.
That would be awesome to listen to a podcast about that.
Yeah. But then JP2, we talked a lot. We went to go visit his home. We went to visit his where he was moved during communism. He had to move to a smaller home. And his life, we learned a lot about his life. What about his life or his teachings really stood out to you?
Well,
I mean, there's just so much. Let me see. There's so much that
I'll start.
Yeah, you start. Because I was thinking about something else. Because you mentioned before that the three things that we enjoy most or that we like most, and I was thinking about that because we mentioned about we were talking about the history of Poland, and that immediately brought me to the castle, Babel Castle,
right,
and especially the cathedral. And in that cathedral is where JP2 celebrated his first mass when he was ordained in Ad Orientem, of course. He celebrated 3 masses, one behind the other. And I found that very interesting. I don't know.
Well, that's right, because JP2 lived like more than half his life under the Tridentine Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was the council was convened while he was a bishop. He was a bishop. Yeah. He had just become a bishop. Yeah. And so he was a baby bishop at the time of the council. And so he spent the majority of his life, or at least the half his life, as under the Tridentine Mass. So he was formed by the Tridentine Mass, which is very interesting.
Exactly. And some people claim JP2 to be a modernist, especially during his papacy. But somehow he's very controversial about that because you can see his teachings, especially, for example, Humane Vitae. No,
that's Paul
that was
VI.
Paul VI.
Yeah.
The other one, it's Evangelium Vitae.
Okay, right.
Yeah, Evangelium Vitae. For example, that and on some other of his teachings, he's very conservative about the moral of the behavior of the human person, the human people, and I think that's something that I would remark about his teachings and his pontificate. His personalism. I think he went from the phenomenalism. From the
Phenomenology.
phenomenology. Sorry about that. So he went from the phenomenology to develop a more a foundation for the sexual life of human people.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think one of the things that JP2 got right was his anthropology, and the reason for that, I think, is his connection with Aquinas. He really had one of his primary education was from the Angelicum, which was he was educated under Thomas Aquinas, and then later he was educated under phenomenology, and it was in joining the two that he kind of developed his weird, unique anthropology, where we get the things like the theology of the body, Evangelium Vitae, and things like that. And so he started off with the correct premises of Thomas Aquinas' anthropology, and from there he was able to move forward about what is man and what is he geared for? What makes us fully human? What makes us fully alive?
Yeah.
And that's what he really understood, I think.
Yeah. And being in Poland, especially for me, I could understood more about why he came up with all of those ideas based on the context, on the social context that he lived, and I mean the history in which he was immersed, especially during the communist infiltration and invasion.
Yeah, then in like going along with that, he writes a lot about the dignity of workers and things like that. And some people will like to take that and take it towards a communist route, and take it toward a socialist route, like the workers' revolt thing, that kind of idea, which is completely contrary to what JP2 would have wanted. Because the reason why he was writing and talking about the dignity of workers was because he was living under communist regime and was like, we are not getting any dignity as workers, and so. His critique of communism was the fact that communism reduced man to work, whereas a man is not work itself. Man can flourish through his work and by doing work, by tilling the soil, as it says in Genesis. But he is not work. He is not what he produces, which is the error of communism, which is saying that we are only as valuable as what you can produce.
And I think that's the error that we see today in the world, especially in developed countries, that they see people as objects, as objects that produce, that give money.
Absolutely, we're very materialistic, like things, and I think that it really is, you like put your finger on the problem, where we do, even if we don't say we do, if we pretend that we don't. So many people, including myself, kind of look at people sometimes and say, like, what can you do for me? Or what is your relation to me in terms of like, what kind of benefit do I get from talking to you? What kind of benefit do I get from having a relationship with you? Instead of just thinking you are a human person with dignity and worth, and that's enough. And that's enough.
And I think that's the jewel of JP2, of his teaching.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's really good, because they say that anytime JP2 would meet someone, he would never forget their name.
Yeah,
and the second he would meet them, he would meet them again like 20 years later, and he would remember their name, because to JP2, every person was like looking into the face of Christ. And so he remembered every person he ever met, which is like mind blowing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Especially he's a pontiff. He meets a lot of people every day.
Yeah, so it's quite amazing. And him under communist regime, having to study and having to work at the same time. So that's why I think that's one of the reasons why he had such a great love for the youth, because his youth was so stripped away. He had no youth pretty much. His mother died when he was young, and then his brother died soon after. And then before he was ever ordained a priest, his father died. And he was completely alone. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And also, I mean, he adopted, or he wanted to be adopted, and he was actually adopted by the Virgin Mary. And I think that because of his country. I mean, Poland is a Marian country. So he had that in his blood, basically. And that's where his motto comes, Totus Tus.
That's right. Totally yours, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of giving yourself totally to Mary, and then Mary will take what is imperfect in you and present it to her son on a silver platter and be like, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite amazing to think about. Okay, Rodrigo, top 3 things from Poland.
Well, actually, I was going to mention something about JP2's life.
Go ahead.
Because I remember now, because it's been a while since. So
yeah, it's been a while.
So one thing that really did struck me was the fact that he, at first, his first intention was not to be a priest, but actually he was in theater and he was in philology, and it's. I connected with that because I also love languages, to study languages as well. So, and I saw JP2 was into that as well. So it was, it was heartwarming to see that there was something that we had in common, to read, the life about a pope or a saint and say, okay, we have something in common. It's more human. And also the fact that he realized he had a change of heart as to his vocation. And he attributed a lot of that because of the saint he had read, which I think it's Saint Albert, which he had first wanted to be. He was a painter, professional painter, and then he wanted to be. He realized he wanted to help out the poor in Poland, and I think it was a Franciscan order. I don't know if do you remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, but he was and his father actually was the one that used to tell him that story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think, that's definitely interesting, how he had a change of heart in his vocation.
Yes, there's a great parallel between him and that saint.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because you can say, well, you never know what the Lord has in store for you, You may think, okay, this is my plan, but that may not be the plan for you, You may have something else. There may be something else for you, and it might be even better than what you thought it was. So, it made me think a lot about my life, my vocation, and, analyze it. So it's a lot to reflect on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting to think about, to see like where am I headed? Quo Vadis, which is in Rome, and there's Saint Peter was going towards Rome, and all of a sudden he finds out that there's like a huge persecutions in Rome, and he was like, no thanks, I'm not dying today.
Yeah.
And so he turns around and starts walking away from the city, and all of a sudden he sees a man in the distance, and he looks and he's like, this man looks familiar, and the man gets closer and closer, and he realizes that it's our Lord. And he goes, my Lord, why are you going to the city? And he goes, I'm going to go get persecuted with my people.
Yeah.
And Jesus turns to Peter and says, Quo Vadis, where are you marching? Where are you going?
Yeah.
And Peter turns around.
And that's a question I think that we can apply to every one of ourselves. Where are we going? I mean, with our lives, with our vocation, especially, in this modern world, in this context, I think that the trip to Poland helped us all of us, but especially helped me to analyze, to reflect once again, to put things in order. We could say that, and I think it's a trip that everyone should take. Because that's really like a trip that changes your mind, because you enter into a atmosphere, into a reality that you are not used to, especially in living here in the continent. We have never been under a totalitarian regime, such as communists
and Nazis.
Yeah. We have never had that degree of persecution, at least not in recent years. Of course, we had it in Mexico, but and that's something that also amazed me a lot. But I think that being to Poland has been just life-changing. We could say that. It's a typical word or phrase that people use, but it has really been life-changing. And especially getting to know the man that everyone loved in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everywhere you went, you could see a image of JP2.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't think there was a single church that didn't have an image of JP2 in it.
Yeah, even public places.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that was one of the other things that I loved about Poland. Every street corner had like a small shrine to some saint, whether it was Mary, JP2, or some obscure Polish saint that I've never seen before in my life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
And a lot of churches that had relics of saints, which was
so many relics.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
And to be honest, that's, it helped me learn about Catholic faith. I think there's so many elements that, here in the U.S. and also in Mexico, that there's just been wearing off, wearing away. And in Poland, it seems to be intact. So you learn the Catholic faith as it is, not some other version of it. For example, not eating meat on Fridays.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I confess, I didn't know that we were not supposed to eat meat on Fridays.
Well, I bet you 99% of people that are listening right now do not know that you're not allowed to eat meat on Fridays.
Yeah.
It is technically still in canon. And by technically, I mean, it's still in canon that you have to,
it's the law.
It's the law. You have to abstain from meat every Friday of the year, including every Friday in Lent.
Yeah.
And
of course.
And in Poland, it's just natural. Nobody eats meat on Fridays.
Yeah.
The only place that even offered meat on Fridays was when we went to like the big cities where there's a bunch of people or just a bunch of tourists.
Yeah.
And so but when we were out in the countryside on Friday, nobody even offered meat. Like that was not an option.
Yeah.
No, I had a fish burger one time when we went to a restaurant there when we did a pilgrimage. It was one of the pilgrimages. I can't remember which one, but someone ordered a burger and they just said, "Oh no, we don't serve meat on Fridays."
That's right.
Yeah.
And so then it was my turn to order, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just have a fish burger." So I had fish. It was actually really delicious.
Divine Mercy. It was at the Shrine of Divine Mercy.
Divine Mercy.
I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember that because I was behind you in the
Really?
line. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, but yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And also, all the shops in the small cities close at 6.
That's right. And they're all closed on Sunday.
Yeah.
And on Sunday,
All the shops are closed on Sunday. There's like, I think one grocery store that was open on Sundays and then everything else is closed on Sunday. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And Father Vito was telling us that all the politicians running for office, they all have kids that are priests.
Yeah.
Like what?
Wow, that's
what?
awesome.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that's why Poland has, also because of the impact that JP2 had globally, but Poland is raising. I mean, it's going up economically speaking, and also it's appearing more on the map. We could say that in the global map. Poland, it's going up. Something that I also love about Poland was the monastery, the Czerna. We went to Czerna.
We went to a Carmelite monastery.
Yeah.
And at the Carmelite monastery, it was incredibly peaceful. It was amazing. And we had so much time to sit and just pray and to reflect. And there, a lot of us were enrolled in the Brown Scapular. Rodrigo, you were enrolled in the Brown Scapular.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was a really interesting experience. It was really beautiful. I loved it. And it was actually my first time being enrolled in the scapulary. I didn't even know that there was like such, I guess initiation into the scapular. So, and I learned a lot about the scapular. I've always seen the scapular, but I never like, okay, what is it? Or, what does it do? Until Father Vito went into depth and he talked about it, and then he initiated us into the scapular. And so I understood all the rich history behind it and the importance of it. Yeah.
And in JP2, whenever he was shot by
Muhammad Ali. I think it wasn't.
He was shot, and he was he was taken to the hospital. He whenever they went to go have surgery on him, he told them, "Do not take off my scapular."
Yeah,
and so they had to just move the scapular to the side while they were operating because he would not let them take off his scapular while he was being operated on, because he knew that the promises of Our Lady were true, that she would protect him and that she would be there with him And so he kept his scapular on. In fact, if you want to know more about the brown scapular, just so happens that I did an episode on the brown scapular a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And so you can go back and listen to that one. I did an hour-long episode talking about the scapular from Elijah in the Old Testament to today. So it was everything you could possibly want to know about the brown scapular and where to get started.
Awesome.
So just FYI, a little plug of myself into myself.
Yeah. And also, I was enrolled also in the scapular over there in Poland, and that also had a spiritual impact on me, because I was thinking the whole time, I mean, like, Mary, you have brought me to Poland to show me your love. I mean, because there are sort of certain requirements in order to receive or to be enrolled in the scapular family. And one of them is that has to be in a Carmelite church, and also by a priest. And we had that. We were there in the monastery. So, and actually, I remember that when we were there, I was sick. I had kind of the flu.
I remember that. You were like gone for like 2 days, and then all of a sudden you were there for the brown scapular.
Exactly. And then everything was okay. Yeah. No big deal, no big problem.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, it was really nice to see, because I think like almost everybody on the trip received the brown scapular there.
Yeah.
I received the brown scapular years ago, and so I couldn't like re-receive the brown scapular. Yeah. And so I was helping out with Father, helping him carry stuff and things. Yeah, the acolyte. I was serving, and it was really nice and amazing to see like so many people with the devotion to Our Lady, and we were there at a Carmelite monastery with a ginormous image of Our Lady behind us. And I was just like, wow, like this is amazing to see like so much love for Our Lady, and to really think about the fact that when we put the brown scapular on, this is what it's like in Poland, just like in general. It is how it should be everywhere, where we feel like we're being clothed by our mother. Our mother is putting a cloak on us right now. Like it's like as if you were naked, and your mother saw you naked, and she knew that you needed to be comforted and that you needed to be sheltered. And she takes a blanket, a big heavy blanket, and covers you in it and wraps you in that cloth. And that is just, it is what it's like. It is exactly what it's like, what Our Lady's love is.
And also you can express your love to her by kissing your scapular every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is awesome.
And they used to have an indulgence attached to kissing the scapular.
It is.
I think that it was revoked by Paul VI, actually.
Wait, so there used to be an indulgence. If you kiss the scapular, you would have an indulgence?
Yeah, you'd receive like, I think, a 500 days indulgence for kissing your scapular. But I think, I could be wrong, I think that was just taken off the books by Paul VI.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Hopefully
but
not.
It's not a bad thing to kiss it though.
Yeah, of course not.
but yeah, so, but just, maybe I'll do I promised so many different episodes of so many different things. I need to do an episode on indulgences and like, what does it mean to be like a 500 days indulgence? What the heck does that mean? And quickly, what it means basically is a 500 days of doing a penance. You would receive that amount of indulgences. So it doesn't mean like 500 days off of purgatory. It means 500 days of doing a penance. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of what it is.
So if you sin, like you have 500 days.
No. So
okay, explain how you went wrong.
So kind of like what it is it's like, for instance, if I was going to fast for 500 days, instead I could kiss a scapular instead, and it would be the equivalent of fasting for like 500 days.
So instead of doing the penance for this sin, you just kiss a scapular.
Right.
Okay.
Kind of.
Got it.
Yeah. Kind of. Simplified.
All right.
But you still have to go to confession.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. But yeah, so that was and so Rodrigo, do you have any other any like things that you enjoyed about Poland, or things that like really stood out to you?
I mean, I really enjoyed just the people. They were really nice, very welcoming. There was a lot of curiosity as to where we were from. And whenever we tell them we were from Texas, United States, they were like, "Oh, America, Texas!" Especially Texas. Their reaction to Texas was
greater than the reaction to US.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
no, indeed, it was.
It's interesting, Texasu. They call it Texasu.
Texasu.
Yeah. So I really enjoy seeing their the fact that they were so it was a heartwarming welcome, and they were also really happy to see us, and so I enjoy that. And so I'm very curious to see, okay, with a little bit more knowledge of Polish, how will it be? You know, will we
a little
have
bit more knowledge
conversation?
more about history,
history.
and the faith of Poland.
Yeah.
All this new things that knowing, like going back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think it was very interesting to contrast the people that we met in Poland versus whenever I went to Israel the year before that. So the summer before this last summer, I went to Israel, and you know the people there in Israel are not exactly the nicest people there, and they're a lot of angry people, and people would be like, "You're from America? Go back to America!" I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, people were yelling at us, and at one point, like a kid jumped out from the side of the corner and pretended to shoot us with a pop gun, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Wow.
It was terrifying.
But that was Christian people?
No, that was Muslims.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in the Muslim quarter, and but in Poland, you were just there. And everybody's so happy. People were just joyful.
Yeah.
It was very rare to see some people that were angry or were rude. That was very, very rare. And so it was very interesting to see the contrast between the two countries that I was at, and then obviously there's a huge difference between that country and America, where it's very interesting in America. I guess there's totally different cultures depending on where you are in America. I think in Texas we're pretty nice.
Exactly.
I think you could say like each state is a country.
Yeah, really, we're all our own cultures.
Yeah, that's precise. That is precisely the name of the country, United States.
United States. Yeah, exactly. States. No, but also Polish people love to dance, and we had. I think you were.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
gosh. Right? All of us were there. That Sunday night.
Yeah.
It was Sunday night. There was a concert in Krzeszowice.
They had American music, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. It was a mix of like American music, and they also had
Caribbean music.
Yes, Spanish music and
country music. Yeah, what was up with that?
So they really love to dance. They were really dancing.
That's the other thing I noticed that was interesting about Poland. Most of the people are dancing with someone they came with. Like they weren't dancing with strangers.
Okay,
which I thought was very interesting. There's a very, I guess, respect for other people. And so it was very interesting to see. Like I was watching the crowds, and it seemed like the same people would dance with the same people. There wasn't like going and asking different people to dance. It was like you went with a girl, and you were going to dance with this girl while you were there. So I thought it was very interesting to see.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because I think Poland would be known as what they call a low trust society. That it's only like they trust certain people, and the strangers they don't. It takes time because when we went to the bar in Poland downtown, I think it was Katowice. I was asking this Polish girl who was a bartender different drinks, and she told me, "Do you trust me?" And I was like, yeah, I trust you. I was like
I don't think you're gonna kill me.
Why wouldn't I? I mean, you're the bartender. You're Polish. You know the drinks here. So, but it was interesting that she asked that question, and it really stayed with me. And it's like, well, I guess Polish people have their own circle, their own tight circle, and they're not mean to strangers. They're just it takes time for them to warm up to you, and I think that all has to do. It goes back to the communist era.
Yeah,
you couldn't just talk to anybody. You couldn't
you didn't know who was a communist and who was.
Yeah, you couldn't congregate with people outside because the communist government could think you're starting a rebellion, or you had to be careful what you talked about, who you talked to, because they were keeping tabs on you. So I think that's something that's stayed in.
Wow, I never thought about that. That makes sense. Now that you bring it up, wow, totally. I never thought about it. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Last thoughts on Poland. My last thoughts, I'll start. I thought Poland was amazing. I learned a lot about JP2, about the saints of Poland. I never knew how many Polish saints there are. There's there's just unbelievably an amount of saints. So I would encourage people to go and look up the Polish saints and find out more about them, what great things they did, but also look at what's going on in Poland today. There's so many courageous people in Poland today that we don't see elsewhere. And so I think that in the Marian love, the love of our mother, that is such a beautiful aspect of Poland, and something that we can learn and bring back to America, our love for Our Lady. If we bring that back, the world can change if we just love Our Lady. Heidel.
Yeah, and following up with that, I would say that people have to go to Poland, especially Catholic people. Because that revitalizes your life, your spiritual life. That being in Poland teaches you how to be Catholic. although you have to continue your formation, your education.
When you come back home.
Exactly.
Or stay in Poland, you know?
Or stay in Poland. And marry over there.
Marry a Polish girl, yeah. And Rodrigo.
I agree with Jairo, and it's a must-see country. It should be a priority, especially to Catholics. I think there's just a lot of history. There's a lot we can learn about Poland, and it just it breaks my heart that it just doesn't get the credit it deserves from people. And I think it's helped Poland maintain its culture, its history. Not being so widely known, but also a lot of people overlook it. So yeah, and jeszcze Polska nie zginęła.
Which means
Poland is not yet lost.
Poland is not yet lost.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we will close out. So share the podcast with someone you think would be interested. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we're on iHeartRadio now as well. So if you want to listen on iHeartRadio, I am there as well. You can contact me with any questions, comments, or concerns at fonsecaproduction@gmail.com. That's Fonseca, Fonseca production@gmail.com. With any questions, comments, or concerns, soapboxes, negativities, or positivities, or anything in between. And so we will close out as always in a Hail Mary. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.